It's 5:30 p.m. on Tuesday, July the 19th, 2022. Call this regular meeting of the School District to order. We'll have roll call. Joe Morales. Present. Martin Chapa. Present. David Garcia. Elizabeth Ramos.
Here.
James Glusing. Here. John Salinas.
Here.
Brian Kufal is here. Let the record show that there is a quorum of board members present. This meeting has been posted in accordance with Government Code Chapter 551, State of Texas Open Meetings Act. We move now to the moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance and the Texas Pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I, the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
This meeting is being live video streamed at https://bit.ly/3SROLQR. We move to item number 4, which is adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda? Motion made by Ms. Ramos. Second. Seconded by Mr. Morales. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries unanimous. Item number 5, public participation. Ms. Pettis, do we have anyone who wishes to address the board?
No, sir, not at this time.
All right, we'll move now to item number 6, which is communication from administration. We'll have the superintendent's update, which will include safety track, car registrations of safety officers, summer curriculum writing, July through August professional development calendar, updated staffing status, and the emergency connectivity fund received over $925,000. Dr. Pettis.
Okay, thank you so much. First of all, I would like to talk about the safety. We had our safety meeting on Thursday, the 14th. We invited parents and community. I appreciate everybody who did show up. I'm hopeful that more parents and community members will be able to watch the video at least so they can see some of the things that we're going to be putting into place and that we have been putting into place. It's very important that everybody participates in what is going to be happening in order to make our schools safer. We did introduce our safety team, our new safety team. We have actually our lead safety team member, Mr. Pettis, here today at the board meeting. So thank you, welcome. And some of the things that are going to be affecting, I guess, the public would be the fact that we intend to close the track at HMK from 8 in the morning to 6 p.m. in the evening. And so it's really important that everybody knows that. And then also we're going to be registering cars. So any cars or vehicles that are going to want to park at any campus, they're going to need to register them. So whether it's student drivers or staff drivers. Of course, we'll have the designated areas for visitor parking, and our safety team will help us enforce that to make sure that those who are in the visitors parking are actually visitors. So we're going to be rolling that information out as well. So in case y'all have any questions about any of that, I know we already rolled it out. I mean, pretty much this information at the meeting, but I figured if we would do an update here at the board meeting, then anybody who didn't hear some of this information might get.
Dr. Pettis, I have a question. On the registration for the students, is that going to be, how are you going to designate it as a hanging tag, or is it going to be a sticker? Or?
Right, they're looking at either a hanging tag or a sticker.
It's the one that hangs on the vehicle that we're looking at right now.
Will they have like an account number on those hangers that will go towards information found in like an admin on a computer or a file somewhere that states that certain child is registered
It's got a 4-digit code, if I'm not mistaken, 4-digit or 5-digit?
Dr. Sandoval, do you, Mr. Segovia, want to go ahead and go up to the mic?
I just want to make sure there's some type of identifying information because everybody can share those things and duplicate them. So I just want to make sure there's some type of
Tracking.
form of tracking on that, yes.
It is a 4-digit code.
Because I have like five, I like to have at most 6 vehicles at one time in a scooter. So, I mean, my daughter had her, choice. So I just want to make sure that each one have a name attached to it. If there's any issues.
It does have a 4-digit number on those cards or those tags, which will be identified and identified to the kids specifically when they do register their vehicle at the front desk.
Okay, I have a similar thing she has to say with multiple cars in my family. I want to make sure that it is designated. Are we asking if they have insurance?
That is the expectation that they register the insurance with the front desk as
Okay,
well.
so if they take their tag off of one car and put it into another car, they can move to a car that they don't have insurance on.
Yeah, they could easily move it, but they would have to identify the cars that are part of the tag that they're registered with that specific tag.
But the people walking through the parking lot, they want to have that information to know which car that tag is certified for.
The vehicles that are registered with that tag will be available to our security.
Thank you.
That's going to help out a lot with confusion, especially without assigned parking. Or have you thought of that too?
I know they're looking at that, well, like for seniors and looking for.
We haven't discussed that specifically in terms of moving that towards the high school. Getting back just to the process of having the tags and utilizing tags effectively. But with our primary goal, we're also looking at our entry points and exit points at the high school. And minimizing the opportunity for people to come into the parking lot only at specific times where we have access to maybe 2 different openings, but the rest of the day we're only having 1 access point to enter into the high school and exit the high school.
So this is our starting point. It's just the tags, and then we'll change or adjust whenever needed. A question just for all fairness: is the administrative parking lot going to be handing out the same passes as well?
Correct, and we've also made some modifications to the tags because they don't have dates on them. So we do want to make sure we put the date 22, 23, so we know it's an actual school year parking permit, not one from the previous year.
Or you can change colors and tag.
Yeah, and Mr. Segovia is working on getting those specific to each campus as well, not just high school. We're gonna get parking for our staff at each campus throughout the district.
I have one more question, and that's are we talking about at the high school campus, that faculty would be parking in front of the school?
That's correct.
All right, do we have enough parking for visitors to share those parking lots? Because they will not be able to go into the gate anymore without a parking lot.
That's correct. I don't remember the number of spots that we have for Mr. Lucy, but I remember that we had plenty of spots when we first opened the school for our teachers and for any parent for visitor parking.
Thank you very much.
Some other things that they're doing with safety is, we've gotten several quotes, or pursuing also several quotes on different softwares we're looking at for communication devices. Meeting with our judge and the Clayton County superintendents about getting a universal communication piece. And also we're looking at getting quotes about the fencing at the high school. So as soon as we can get some good competitive bids and go through that procedure, we'll be bringing that to you as well.
So the aesthetics of the fence are going to be a factor as well, right? Unfortunately. I do have a question that I been wanting to ask. I know we've brought up the issue of keying and locking and master locks and everything at these campuses. And I know that we spent quite a lot of money on rekeying, relocking, make sure there's a master for each campus, or because all campuses secure when it comes to access.
And that's what they're working on actually right now, because, well, first of all of our safety officers, they have a what is it called? A grandmaster key. But and Dr. Vasquez Cruz, he has been working on the card access. So we're doing that, and then working with the police, the city police on that as well. So we'll have more information for you. There's just so much research that they're doing. I mean, calling in for quotes, making sure that it is adaptable to the systems we have. And there is so much that they have been doing. So we'll have another update for you next week, well, every week probably for the rest of this year, that's for sure, on safety. They're also interviewing some more candidates to hopefully get a safety officer at each elementary as well, because I know that has been a concern. And that, I believe they're interviewing next week. Correct. Next week. So give you more information about this. Got some great candidates.
Well, I'm a talker, so if you don't mind, I want to appreciate you for doing all that, for putting that on, for inviting everybody out, for the community to have a chance to say hello. Anybody can go back on that video and watch and find out more information about what we're doing as far as changes here. I appreciate you starting with the locks and the keys, because we know after reading the reports from the Valley that that was probably the largest mistake. And I want to commend our Chief Torres for coming out and speaking. I think he did say something that was pretty poignant. That if anything were to happen here, and I will probably hold their feet to the fire too, but he made a comment in a sentence that stated that the one main goal is to stop the threat. So not to wait and see. He's going in there and he's neutralizing whatever issues are happening. And I appreciate him saying that. And I appreciate everybody who is listening to him and that knows how serious that is, especially after what happened. So I appreciate him saying that to the community, that that's the most important thing to have, because it's the most important thing to us.
Well, he's also going to be presenting at our convocation day on August 5th, have them secured for an hour and a half, giving information about that. He sent us a tutorial that I looked at for possibly our secondary campuses. When I watched it, I thought it might be okay for elementary as well. So we can start showing that as well. So there are many things that we apply. Our safety officers are going to go get the training for the Guardian program on August 17th and 18th. So that's coming down as well. So, and you're right. I mean, that's the most important thing, is the safety of our kids. We can guarantee we're going to try the best we can. We can't guarantee it's going to be perfect, but we'll try the best we can. Dr. Bessanice and I went and visited Uvalde last week. Dr. Sandoval had gone the week before. It's very, very, there's no words to express being there. But looking at the entrance and exit door, it's just a stark reminder of that's at any campus. The fence, it wasn't tall enough. There's so many things that could have slowed this down. So, we're gonna do everything possible to prevent anything like that from happening in KISD. And we're gonna hold everybody accountable. So everybody is accountable. Anybody who walks into any door or sees any door propped open, it's their responsibility, everybody's responsibility to make sure that the doors are secure, non-negotiable. Okay, so let's go on to summer curriculum writing. Thank you, Mr. Segovia and Dr. Sandoval and the whole safety team. Summer curriculum writing. Before we begin, I do want to introduce also Lorena Zeballos. She's with us. She is our new executive director for secondary. Again, she hit the ground running. She fit right in, just like our safety team. They fit right in. So we provided the calendar of PD also that I believe you have. They've been working on that. I just want to commend all the teachers, though, that have been attending the summer curriculum writing. Thank you to everyone who has shown up. I went over there one of the days, and it was really rewarding to see all the teachers that were there. Today was GT training. How many people did we have there? 29 people that showed up. So that is fantastic. It's just great to see the motivation and the dedication of our teachers. So I'm very proud of them. Okay, so now for the July-August professional development calendar, that's what we've provided for you. It's a draft, and there's a couple of things we tweaked, and really it's just a classroom. Like, in other words, instead of room 4, we're going to use room 2. But other than that, it's pretty much exactly the, how we had sent it. So if y'all have any questions about that, we have Dr. Bessanice here and the CNI team in case you have any questions. And we also have Dr. Laura Zimmerman here and representing SPED. And it's beautiful to see the marriage that has happened where CNI and special ed are working hand in hand. We're getting a lot of blended learning during summer curriculum writing and during the PD. Also, Dr. Farah is reaching out to Head Start to see if the Head Start pre-K can be attend some of the same trainings we're offering for our pre-K. So that way those kiddos are ready for us once they come to kindergarten. So if y'all have any questions.
I want to point out that I sent you a message that I appreciate this calendar because it gives us an insight on what PD is focused on and what you guys are working towards. This year, and parents already know, there's a STAR redesign going on, and I probably will go ahead and attend this meeting. I like to try to stay away from any events that aren't board related, but I'm gonna hang out at the STAR redesign because I think that honestly, as board members, need to understand what it is you guys are doing differently this year, what teachers are doing differently this year, what the expectations are. So I mean, I'm inviting the whole board to go if you have the time, because I don't want to sit up here and ask meaningless questions when I could have figured it out on this class. So you guys take a gander, take a look. You got time, come join me. So,
We welcome you to stop by at any.
I plan on being the whole time, so make sure that I know what everybody else is doing, because and as a parent, it's nice to know as well. So.
Okay, the next one is the updated staffing status. This is changing daily and sometimes hourly, depending on the new hires. And so Dr. Holt has issued it to you just a few minutes ago. And so if you have any questions, I'll take them. And we can talk maybe more detail about personnel, maybe in executive session, but if there's some general questions that you have.
Dr. Chris, as far as your teaching positions go on each of the campuses, all of them have been filled?
No. So we have a couple of that submitted their resignations after the deadline, and we're not releasing unless it's an advancement or unless we find a suitable replacement, etc. But there's a few. So if you look at HMK, we have 2 teaching vacancies. Yes. 2, no, I'm sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 teaching vacancies. 1 is pending the program that person is in, so we should find that out. In Gillette, we have 3 teaching vacancies. 4. One of them is going to be absorbed. 5. And the principals are here, so they're busy interviewing as we go. Harvey has no teaching vacancies. Carroll has 1 teaching vacancy. And Pettis has 3. Is it 3, Dr. Holt? I mean, are y'all working on those last minute? Pettis has 3 teaching vacancies. And like I said, they've been interviewing since they started, well, this way Tuesday. They've been interviewing since last week and submitting recommendations.
I have a question. What happens if we don't hire an athletic trainer starting the school year? How does that work as far as liability is concerned?
Coach Davila, you want to come to that?
So I've talked to Ruben Tamuk, who's the head trainer there, and we'll have a consultant trainer come over, to start off football, especially on August 1st, we'll have that. But we're in the works. We have a rookie that has taken her first test, and then she will take the final test in December. But by law, she can start off with us and help us if we don't find one. But we've got posted and we're working on it. But athletic trainers are tough to find.
As I'm not sure, because I obviously got a little one, and I'm in, he's in bed by 8, so I don't go to all these games. Is there an actual ambulance on call at each one of these football games?
Yes, JV and varsity.
All right, thank you.
That's what we common Dutch, because I know these vacancies are pretty common all over the United States and in Texas, but I think not as much here. I mean, those are manageable. I think we'll be able to fill them all. I think there's some school
Yes.
districts who have
Yes,
Really
yeah,
bad stuff.
hearing some horror stories about how many they have. This is manageable. They have hope that we're gonna get some, all of these filled. Even just to have one school that didn't have any vacancies at all, that's really good. So we're getting there. We still have a little while. I'm glad we're not starting school, early like some others. We still have a little bit of time, but we will keep you posted on the ones. And we're waiting on some of them for like the alternative certification program paperwork to come in. So some of these, they're waiting on that as well. Okay. The next item is the Emergency Connectivity Fund, and I just wanted Dr. Vasquez Cruz to kind of shine a light on that. We're very excited about what we received, and I've kind of given you preliminary information, so just.
Yes, and this is for the ECF 3 or the wave number 3 on Emergency Connectivity Fund. We decided to apply for waves number 1 and wave number 3, and we skipped number 2 because it was not adequate to the school year. We didn't want some of the services to cease in the middle of the school year. Now we're going to have some of these services coming in. We hope right before day 1 of instruction. So overall, we're going to receive 1,500 new high schools for students, and maybe they're going to be designated for the elementary school students. We will receive also services renewed on LTE data plans for Chromebooks used by Gillette and HMK students. We will receive also 225 Chromebook devices with internet built in for the teachers. And last, we are going to receive devices or the hardware so we can equip the fleet of school buses in KISD, all 18 units with, again, a strong signal. So as students move from place to place, or they get to travel outside the district for school functions, they'll be able to connect to the internet. The total amount is $926,000 with $784. And again, this is 100% payback program, zero cost to the district.
Hey, Dr. Vasquez Cruz and the team.
Thank you, Sarah.
Dr. Cruz,
Yes.
if the meeting, you stated how many cameras were in the campuses.
Yes.
We're glad to hear, are all of them functional now and all of them upgraded with new?
Yes, the cameras, all of them are functional. The only cameras that you might see not displaying information are cameras from 2005 that they are mounted in older sections of the building. So eventually those cameras will have to be removed, and we decided to leave them there just because they are deterrents to scenarios. They see them and you will think that it's working, and nonetheless, we don't want to have a whole mounted on the wall. We want to see something protecting the building. But at high school, we have right now 165 functional units, and Dr. Williams recently sent us a list of additional possible locations. We're looking at it right now. We've been conducting site visits, especially now with school safety. And this is district-wide, so.
So it's in all the schools, there's a few cameras.
We have, yes, the units with the campuses with a small number of cameras, they all are functional, and we check on those daily. As a matter of fact, our technician, first thing he does in the morning is to check the servers to make sure that we have video feeds.
But there are a number of them that aren't connected.
Occasionally they disconnect. That's why we do the daily checks and we bring them back up.
Okay.
So, and that has to do with power issues not only at the school, but it's throughout the city. It's an ongoing scenario that affects everything and everyone.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cruz, and also Dr. Pettis. We move now to item number 7, which is the budget update report. Dr. Pitts, and this can be found on our packet at page 23 to 25. Although we received that.
Thank you, Board President Kufal, Superintendent, Dr. Pettis, members of the board. I would first like to direct your attention to the budget calendar that we're going to bring up on the screen. So we're going to look at some of the dates that you see up there. We're currently on the 19th. Tonight, we have several things that relate to budget. First, we're going to talk about the calendar. Then we're going to review where we are with expenditures, talk a little bit about revenues and tax rate. We also have an agenda item where tonight we have to have the board approve the date of the public meeting. So all of those will be happening tonight. You see the two things that we're waiting for on August the 1st. Certified property values, we may get them a little bit before then, and also the maximum compressed tax rate. Before we can finalize revenues, we need to have our certified property values. Those affect several things. First of all, this year, even if values go up, there is a $40,000 exemption instead of $25,000 exemption for homeowners. So that's going to significantly affect our local revenue. Now, the state is saying that they're going to make up on the M&O side, but on the INS side, that means we may not collect as much revenue as we need to pay our debt services. We will know more next week we will know more once we get those values from the appraisal district. But we're going to talk about, when we look at the budget in just a minute, we're going to talk about what we will do if we do not collect enough on the INS side. The other thing is the tax rate. Every year for the last 3 years, it has been compressed a little bit on the M&O side. They have said that since property values are rising, that you should be collecting more from a lower tax rate. You should be able to collect what you need. So they have, when they compress it, they say this is the maximum you can charge on the M&O side, and we'll look at that. And what we have done the last couple of years is we've increased it on the INS side so that we can cover our debt, because a couple of years ago, we were having to transfer almost $1 million every year from our M&O fund to our INS to cover our debt. And TEA has said you can't do that anymore. They're saying that if you don't have enough money, you have to raise your tax rate. But luckily, we have transferred it from the M&O side, so we have not had to raise our taxes the last several years. So we're waiting for those two things. That is why we are revising the calendar for the 8th. That Monday, we would have our budget workshop. Then we will have all our information, to have our revenues, to have our tax rate, and have a discussion on what we're going to post in the paper. So as the timeline turns out, we have to post that Thursday on 8/11. You see that in white there. We have to post it at least 10 days before the public meeting. So the public meeting then would be on the 23rd. That is a Tuesday. And then immediately after, we would have the special board meeting to approve the budget. Almost every district that I know of, we had a training recently where we were working on revenues. All the districts do the same thing, where close to the last week of August, they approve the budget, because then they have all the information they need, and they always have the public meeting on the same date as the board meeting to approve the budget as well. Then after that, the only other thing that you see is that we will post the budget on our website once it's approved. I'll take any questions that you have on the calendar.
This gives us wiggle room a little bit.
It does, if for some reason, we have to approve the budget by the 31st. If for some reason we had a COVID outbreak and we didn't have a quorum at a board meeting, we would have at least 72 hours to reschedule another board meeting before the 31st. So that way we don't get into a situation where the budget hasn't been approved and we can't spend any more money until we have a board meeting. So that would be a disaster. But at the same time, it does allow us enough time to get the information that we need from the appraisal district and from TEA for our tax rate. Okay, the next thing we're going to look at is the working budget. Make it a little bit bigger. So this is where we are on the budget. I have met with every principal in every department, and we already have a plan for everything that we're going to spend. And you see our expected expenditures up there. What is still in the works are the revenues and the tax rate, which will be up top. So those will be on the 8th. You'll see what our expected revenues are and what our expected tax rate is going to be. If you can scroll down to the bottom, Dr. Vasquez-Cruz, okay, right there. So if you look in the first column, right now we have a draft budget of just over $29 million. We will probably decrease that as soon as we get our expected revenues on the 8th. The reason why is we have some room in ESSER to absorb some extra funding. And depending on what our revenues look like, our goal is as much as possible to try to balance our budget. And you will see when I bring this back on the 8th, depending on what our revenues are, that final number will decrease on the bottom. There will probably be several instructional expenditures and several other allowable expenditures in ESSER that will be moved to the ESSER grant by the 8th. So that's what we're waiting for our revenues. If you look at the very bottom, you see our fund balance, 8.9 million. That's a healthy fund balance. Right now, our district, we have a lot of needs, but with ESSER, that's really helping us to meet our needs. We passed probably the biggest salary increase that we've ever passed in Kingsville ISD history this year, and we passed the second biggest one the year before that. So we have quite a bit more expenditures. What's helped us to absorb some of that is a reduction in staff. But at the same time, we cannot, what everybody is saying is that there's going to be an ESSER cliff, that a lot of districts are going to be in trouble as soon as ESSER funds are used up in 2 years. We are already planning ahead of time for that so that that does not happen. We have a lot of infrastructure costs, and as we go through and take a look at the maintenance budget, we're going to talk about what's built in there for our infrastructure costs. So now we're going to go back, if you could scroll back up, Dr. Vasquez-Cruz, we're going to go through each of the functions and talk about what's in each of those different functions. So instruction, $14.2 million, and really our district probably spends closer to $16-17 million in instruction, but some instruction funds are in Title I. Some instruction funds are in IDEA B. And some instructional funds are also in ESSER now. So in 2 years, that number should probably increase by, I would presume, about $2 million. So that number is actually artificially low during the COVID era. That includes, the biggest part of that is salaries for our teachers.
Can you tell us what the payments for employment is coming out of here? The instruction, whether. I'm tired.
What part of that is salaries?
Yeah, what part of the expenditures goes directly to salaries? Because I know it falls in more than one category. Can you let them know?
Right. The portion of the budget is about 83%. So it is the majority of our budget that goes to salaries. And we'll go through and we'll talk about which salaries are in each of the functions as we go down the line. In function 11, that's mainly your teachers. In function 11, but we're also talking our instructional aides. as well in function number 11. So again, that's the biggest part of our budget, but also in function 11, we're talking about instructional materials and supplies. Some of that is shifted to ESSER right now. Function number 12. That is really two components. One is it's resources and media, so it's basically technology and library expenditures. So we are taking some technology expenditures out of the ESSER funding right now, both ESSER 3 and ESSER 2, but again, some of the technology expenditures have been absorbed by the ECF grant that Dr. Vasquez Cruz has procured for our district as well too. So that number will go up in a couple of years after ESSER ESSER funds are depleted. Technology, two things about technology. One is that you're constantly having, I guess, upgrades. Every few years, you need to upgrade devices to keep them operating with new programs and other devices. And then the other thing is the prices keep going up, it seems like too. So that's a budget that is very detrimental to our district. The other part of that comes out of there is our libraries as well too. Professional development district-wide, again, in function 12, technology, staff and librarians, our salaries are included in function number 12. Function number 13, there are no salaries in function number 13. That is basically what we are spending on professional development. Some of that also is absorbed by ESSER right now. Instructional leadership. So that would be your instructional directors that comes out of that. So we're talking about curriculum instruction, assistant superintendent of C&I, special education director as well. The deans, early college and CTE administrator at the high school. So those are the salaries that come out of that. And then the supplies that are needed for all of those departments as well come out of instructional leadership. School leadership are the principals, the assistant principals, all of their office staff that go along with them, all of those salaries, and then all of their budgets that are needed to operate all of those offices. The majority of that budget again are the salaries of campus principals, assistant principals, and all the office staff at each of those campuses. Guidance and counseling. That is artificially low now until ESSER because a lot of the counseling has been moved to ESSER right now because that's an eligible ESSER expense. What you see mostly there now are the salaries of the diagnosticians because it says guidance, counseling, evaluation. Those are included in evaluations, the diagnosticians as well as all of their supplies, but those are the salaries that are included right there. But again, the counselor salaries right now, last year and the next 2 years will be in ESSER. Social work services, again, artificially low. That is mainly communities and schools, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. They're here to talk about their services for the next year, but right now that's an eligible ESSER expense as well too. Health services, the salaries of all of our nurses are in there, plus all of the supplies for all of the health services across the district. Transportation, salaries that are in there are all of our bus drivers and our bus aides and all of our mechanics for the bus barn and our transportation foreman. We have had a lot of money spent on repairs the last couple of years. We have included money for contracted services. Sometimes there are projects that we cannot complete ourselves because of either we have some great mechanics, but sometimes things are beyond us, or sometimes also because of time, we don't have the time to get to every project in the time that we need the bus. The good thing about transportation is you remember that we are purchasing 3 new buses, and 2/3 of the cost of the buses are absorbed by a grant procured by our transportation foreman, Matt Vetta. Food services, we're gonna talk about that when we talk about the food services budget in the second column, so we'll skip that for now because it's not part of the general fund. You look at extracurricular activities, really some of the biggest costs of this, of course, are number one, the athletic director's salary comes out of this, all the athletic stipends come out of this, student travels comes out of this. We spent about $160,000 from student travel, and if we consider increasing our rates for student travel, we could spend almost $100,000 more in student travel next year just for the meals. Of course, we're talking about buses as well, to all of the extracurricular events as well. You have registration fees to different tournaments that you're in. You have organizations that you belong to for different extracurricular activities and contest fees and things like that as well too. General administration is every other salary out of central office, excluding the instructional ones that we talked about in Title I. So that is the majority of that budget, but then also other things that come out of that are we have a whole bunch of, besides supplies, we also have some professional development that also comes out of 41 for ones that are not for our teachers. We also have, this next year, we will not have election costs that come out of it because we do not have a board election. But a lot of miscellaneous costs that don't fall anywhere else in the district come out of general administration. So we're talking again, mainly every office out of basically this building except for instruction. 51, facilities, maintenance, and operations. So that includes salaries for maintenance, for custodial. The other thing that it includes is all our repairs to our buildings. About $1 million of that is our property and casualty insurance. I included a 12% increase from last year because every year it seems like our property values are going up, and we had a big jump last year of $2 million. I included a 12% increase past that, so that is a huge part of that. We have a deductible of $100,000 in case we have a windstorm. If we don't have to use it, then something is budgeted, and at least we can use it at the end of the year to increase our fund balance. But we need to budget for it just in case we have a storm, because we do have a deductible on our property value insurance. We're talking fees for the appraisal district. We're talking, which are about $320,000 a year for them to appraise all our properties. So there's some big expenditures in there that aren't really maintenance per se, but I also included money in that budget because we are doing a facility study in the fall. They are going to identify what is wrong with each building, each parking lot, each roof, and how much it's going to cost to fix each one, and a priority for each of the projects as well too. So in the spring, we're going to be bringing that list to you. So I have added money in that account to prepare for some of the building infrastructure costs that are going to need to be done. We won't be able to do it all in 1 year. This is something that once we get all of our costs, then we're going to be able to budget and put together a long-term plan over probably the next 10 years. But some of them are going to need to be rolling costs. For instance, roofs are going to need to be resealed every 5 to 7 years. So that'll be something that's on the calendar, and we might have to do 1 roof a year because we won't have enough money for that. HVAC costs. That HVAC cost will probably be $2 to $3 million to upgrade all the HVAC equipment in our district. We are not going to be able to do it all. We won't be able to afford it all at the same time, but the good thing is, if you look down at, let's skip to function 71 for just a minute. Function 71, that 175,000, that's not our bond debt. That is basically it's called a maintenance tax note, but it is basically a loan that we took out 15 years ago to upgrade all our HVAC equipment. The good thing is, in January 2023, we are paying on the 15th year. So we are done paying our previous one. That's the good news. The bad news is, we're probably gonna have to jump right back into another paid maintenance tax note, probably get another loan for 15 years. The good thing is, we won't have to go out for a bond election for it. What they do is they guarantee that the savings from your HVAC, I guess, higher efficiency units is going to make up for your payment every year. And if it doesn't, then they make up the balance. So even though this is the last year in function 71 on our current loan, I would presume that we are going to be bringing a maintenance tax note to the board probably sometime in the spring or the summer, based on what we see from our facility assessment that we have in the fall. So that's one that will be coming back there.
I have a question, why would we put that on a loan? I just pay for the excess funds and then therefore save money in the loan. I don't know, just thinking out of the box. You know your thing from me.
Well,
I'd be curious.
so your thought to pay for it out of fund balance, and then if we were to spend $3 million in fund balance, that's gonna put us above below a healthy level.
But you said that would all be done in parts, correct? You can't do it all at once.
Oh, actually, with the maintenance tax note, we would be able to do it all at once. So the roofing, we're not gonna be able to do all at once. That is not eligible for the maintenance tax note, but as we get closer to the time, we'll bring in our financial advisor, and we will discuss options about what we can do as far as paying it right up front, because I hear what you're saying. Your thought is that we avoid the interest if we pay it right up front. Is that your line of thinking?
Yeah, and it's all gonna have to be paid and done anyway. I just didn't know you can do every single project at the same time.
You can, if we take out a 15-year maintenance tax note, then basically we're getting a loan for the money to pay for it all up front, and then we could get all our HVAC updated immediately. Now, we're gonna see what our facility audit says. When we get our facility assessment done, it will give us an idea of the immediacy of our need to upgrade the equipment. And then we'll be able to make a choice. Hey, do we need to do it all at once, or can we will some of our equipment hold on for a couple more years so that we can just pay for it all up front and eliminate the interest charges? So going back to, we just talked about function 51, security and monitoring services. Salaries that come out of there is the security staff. Also supplies for security. When you think though about some of the other things that we're doing, like for the mechanical building upgrades that we're doing for security, that's coming out of function 51. That's not coming out of 52. When you think about the technology upgrades, like the card readers that we have, that's not coming out of function 52. That's coming out of function 12 with technology. So even though you see the budget for safety and security shows right there, 366,000, there's plenty of other areas, mainly in maintenance and in technology, that we have safety and security costs built into the budget. Data processing, that is basically our district software. There are a couple of salaries like Teams and data that comes out of that, but mainly that's our district software, which is a little over $300,000 every year. So that includes the software that we use for finance, the software that we use for human resources, and for all of the employee data. It includes all the software for all of our student data as well. Community services, right now, almost all of our community services is coming out of Title I, but the portion we have to pay for TRS for those salaries for the parent involvement liaisons has to come out of the general fund, so you see a little small portion there, but almost everything else in community services comes out of Title I since it's an eligible Title I expense. We talked about debt service. Function 93 is, those are our payments to the regional school for the deaf in Corpus Christi. We have students that we bus there every year, and since it's another school district, it comes out of function 93. We're going to talk about function 00. You may see something in function 00, a transfer out in the next iteration of this. And the reason why is, let's take a look at the next column, the food service budget. So the food service budget, right now we're projecting $2.7 million in expenditures. There's a good chance that we will not have $2.7 million in revenues. And we may have a shortfall in the food service budget this next year. If you look now at the bottom, our fund balance in food service is only $360,666, and we may be using some of that this year because we may have a loss at the end of this year. It's going to be very close this year. One of the issues, we used to be making money on the food service side. That was before COVID. As soon as COVID came along, the problem is we haven't served as many meals. We haven't served as many, that includes breakfasts, lunches, and dinners. And if you're not serving as many meals, you're not getting the revenue. That's the biggest part of our revenue that comes from federal revenue. So the problem with serving less meals, the problem with now food costs are skyrocketing. And then the third part of the puzzle is this, is that the last 2 years, we had increased reimbursement rates. I couldn't think of the word for a minute. We had increased reimbursement rates for breakfasts and lunches. But now, because of basically because of COVID, they gave us extra money the last 2 years for breakfasts and lunches. But now they're reverting back to the regular rates. Breakfasts, the reimbursement rate for every breakfast is going to go down 24% next year. For every lunch, it's going to go down 20% next year. So you have the triple whammy of less meals served. You have higher costs for food services. And then the last one, you have lower reimbursement and lower revenue for next year. So we are working right now. We are projecting that we will probably have a deficit budget for food service next year. So we're probably going to have to build something in function 00 for the general fund, where we do a transfer out to food service next year. So if it doesn't happen, if we serve way more meals, if for some reason our costs aren't as high but our revenues still, we're basically going to have to serve more meals because we know that the reimbursement rates are lower. So we are preparing for that right now. So in the next iteration, once we get our revenues on the food service side, you're going to possibly see a transfer out there. So that's in the food service budget. The last one, the third column, is our debt service. You see the amount of our debts. What is fixed is how much debt we're going to pay next year. That's what you see right there. What is variable is how much money we're going to collect from our INS taxes, especially now from us having a greater exemption. So that means that there's going to be, even if values are increased, we may see a decrease in our INS revenues because people are paying, they have a bigger deduction on 40K of their homesteads. We do have a backup plan for that. You see our fund balance is pretty healthy there, 1.5 million. Once I've talked with our financial advisor on this. there is a chance that we use some of that fund balance to pay off some of our debt. And then that could lower some of our interest payments and some of our principal payments. But the first thing that we have to be careful about before we do that is to see how the change from a 25K exemption for homesteads to a 40K affects our collections, because we may need to use some of that. So we're not going to, usually what our financial advisor recommends, that if we're going to use some of that to pay off some of our debt, he says to do it in March, because we have big debt payments in February. Make sure we can make our debt payments there, see where we are with how much we have left in our fund balance, and then possibly using some of that to pay our debt this next year. So what are the next steps? Again, what we do know right now is all our planned expenditures for next year. That's what we know. What we don't know are our revenues and the tax rate. So what will happen once we get our revenues, and again, we'll know a lot more next week once we see our property values. What will change is we will try as best as possible to, if we have a shortfall in revenue in general fund, we will try moving some of this to the ESSER fund, so that we can adopt a balanced general fund budget. That's the goal this year, to do that. I'll take any questions that you might have.
Approximately how much ESSER funds are used in budget offsets?
This last year, it was close to 2.3 million this last year, but we are projecting to use probably closer to 3.3 to 3.5, depending on what we see with our revenues. So we did not spend, we had projected to spend $3 million in ESSER funds this last year. And again, we didn't quite spend $3 million. So we have one more year for ESSER 2 next year. And we have 2 more years for ESSER 3 the following, so next year in 2022, 2023, we have both ESSER 2 and ESSER 3. In 2023, 2024, we have only ESSER 3. And then in 24, 2025, that's where the ESSER fiscal cliff is, where we really have to examine our budget to make sure that we don't have a deficit that year, because all those expenditures are either going to have to be absorbed in the general fund budget, or there's going to have to be cuts, one of the two.
And we had said that this past year, we projected 3 million, and we made sure we had still like $1 million that we did not use. And so we're trying to not spend it all.
How much will be available in that last year when it's only ESSER 3? It's still about 3 million, is it?
We budgeted about 3 million a year, but there's possibility that it might only be 2 million, depending on if we're gonna have to use more ESSER 3 funds this next year.
So it doesn't, I mean, it's not a don't use it, lose it type deal. I mean, there are accounting tricks that could be played at the end to make sure that we get full advantage of all the ESSER funds we were awarded.
So so ESSER 1 is ending in September. I just, over the weekend, drew down every last cent of the ESSER 1 funds, because I don't want to get anywhere close to that. So I will be doing the same thing near the end of the year next year with ESSER 2, and the same thing the end of the following year with ESSER 3, to make sure that we don't lose any of our funds.
So at worst, 3 to 3.5 million that we need to replenish somehow in revenue or reduced expenses.
Well, we're also taking money out of ESSER 2. ESSER 2 is anywhere from 1.5 to 2 million. So again, there are some things that we won't be able to afford once ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 are gone. The biggest portion of our budget, again, is salaries. And the second biggest portion of our budget is facilities costs. We're talking not only property and casualty insurance, but we're talking utilities and repairs. And then really the third biggest part of our budget is now technology. So those are the big three, and it's really hard to, when when, let's say, a campus, if we're able to cut $10,000 from a campus budget, that means very little to the overall picture. Where you're gonna get the biggest bang for your buck are the three big ones that I talked about.
And through attrition, we're gonna continue to keep cutting through attrition, so nobody's gonna lose their jobs in case anybody's listening to this and they're really worried about this. We're gonna continue doing the same thing we did this past year. Last year, remember, he stood up here and it was very bleak, also, it was like a little worrisome. But we continue to do the practices that we've been doing as far as only utilizing what we need to utilize. I'm hoping also that we're gonna get some safety monies that are gonna help offset some of these things that we're having to spend on. I'm hopeful that that's gonna happen.
I agree, and we're not, right now, we're not planning on budgeting for it in our revenues because it's not a sure thing yet how much or what the allowable expenditures are for. We do have, so what you see here are three of our fund balances. We have three other fund balances that really are separate. One of them is our health insurance fund balance, which really is separate and we can't really draw from to help with any of these. We have our workers' comp fund balance, same thing with that. And then the last one we'll be bringing in September, October to the board. We have about $1.8 million in a construction fund that came from a legal settlement with the high school that we will eventually figure out how we're going to use. So after we adopt this budget and we're through this cycle, that will help a little bit too. That will hopefully help us absorb some of our maintenance and operations costs, especially if when the facility assessment comes back, if they identify improvements at the high school that are eligible to be paid out of that construction fund. It can't be used up for anything, but we'll work with our legal team. What the board, and it needs to come before the board to designate the purposes that those funds are used for. So that's again, another pot of money that we'll eventually be bringing to you.
Two other questions. One, food service, is that federal funds?
The vast majority of his federal funds, there is, I don't know,
Ms.
maybe.
Butler, would you like to come on here in case they have questions for you?
I'm trying to think if it's $100,000 to $200,000 of it at the state, and then there's maybe under 100 that's local.
Good evening, board, Dr. Bettis. A couple points of clarification. Yes, we did take a hit on reimbursement rates. We lost, like Dr. Pitt said, 24% decrease coming this year, beginning this month actually, in lunch reimbursement, 20% decrease in breakfast reimbursement. Our participation rates remain static. We still look at about 85 to 90% participation in meal service at the elementary campuses, and about 60 to 65% in our middle school and our high school. Part of our problem is we're just feeding fewer kids. When I started as director, we had an enrollment of just over 3,400 kids. Last count with my May claim, we were in the neighborhood of 2,800, I want to say. So that's a factor. Another issue was dinner participation. There were some fits and starts with dinner, and then we had a campus that didn't participate at all. So that hit us on the revenue side. Our local revenue took a hit as well because we didn't have the robust a la carte program that we used to enjoy in the pre-COVID years. On average, pre-COVID, we do about $25,000 a month in local revenue, primarily through a la carte sales. I would be surprised if, period 13, we did $25,000 for the year. So we've taken some hits, we've tried to make adjustments. My menu has been pre-costed next year and beaten to the gods. But with that, I was looking at change CPI when I was working on my expenditures this afternoon, and food costs, according to Bureau of Labor Statistics, we're looking at an increase from June to June of about 10.4%. We're also having to still manage supply chain shortages, which also sort of inflate the cost of goods and services. We've had some major equipment failures. Right now, I just just under $7,000 for a new compressor in the HMK kitchen. So it's those sorts of things that, in a normal year, we can manage and we can absorb them, and it's not a big deal for us. But we do have some keys that we need to work out, going forward this year. And so we're doing our best to address them where, there will be no extra duty outside of catering, this year, so that we can get our fiscal house in order. But the two biggest drivers of cost, any food establishment are going to be food and labor. And we're doing everything we can to manage food and labor, that's something else altogether. So
Just the reimbursement costs, cuts that you got federal.
yes, sir.
I'm just trying to figure out which congressman.
I'm also wondering, since we're opening up the school to the public, correct, this coming school year, and their parents are gonna be bringing in a McDonald's, so that's probably another factor.
That's always a factor for us. We used to have really, really robust participation during Texas Public Schools Week. And we would always do a 2-day observation for parent participation during Thanksgiving holidays, which is a huge day of revenue for us. And that didn't happen this year. So it was, we've taken some hits, to be sure.
Well, I encourage, if you go eat with your kid, bring your kid for your special food, but try going yourself as a parent, eat the food, so you know what your kid's being served.
Absolutely.
And you're also helping us out too. I do that every time.
With the safety concerns though, and then just being on COVID, it's hard to, we're still gonna have to do some managing of the amount of people in the cafeteria, people that enter the schools. So, that's even if COVID's ending, now we've got, the school safety concerns, so.
Dr. Pitts, I have one other for you.
Thank you.
Oh, I don't have any other.
Question.
For food service? Okay. Because we're fixing to suggest that the financial report be approved in the common consent, we can't really discuss that. And I do have one question on current, which would be page 36 of our, because I've been sitting here trying to reconcile the two of them. Although we're blank on revenues at the top, our biggest factor right now is in state program revenues, which through the end of May, we budgeted 18 million and we're short about 8 million. Is that money that really is coming in?
One of the things that we had was a settle up at the beginning of the year, but we planned for that. So we planned for a little bit of a shortfall there. Are you wondering how we're going to end up with that big decrease in revenue there?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that we're not going to end the year at 8 million in the hole.
No, we're not going to end the year at 8 million in the hole. The biggest part of that was that we had kind of a settle up where they decreased the amount of revenue because of the previous year we owed money, but we already planned for that. So we're hoping to be pretty close to breaking even this year at the end of the year once all is said and done with the audit.
Okay, thank you, that's all right. And other than that, I just point out that it's very conservative, the budget that you put together, and I appreciate that. I mean, the increase is less than, a little over 1% from last year. I understand ESSER comes into play there. But it's still, I think it's very good handle on expenditures.
I have one question on money that Dr. Cruz brought in, which was $925,000. Is that separate from what we've got listed in the budget?
It is separate. All of the grants are not on here, like Title I and ESSER and so on, so that is separate.
I was just curious because it was so recent. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I guess in closing, I would say that there's several positives that we've done and that we're doing this next year. One is salary increases to remain very competitive. But I think at the same time, I believe some other districts that have overspent and are gonna be in very big trouble after Esser's gone. And I think even though we've realized we need to be competitive, we have kept one eye on the future that really after this next year, ESSER two is gonna be gone, and really even next year in 2023, 2024, we're gonna have decreased revenue that we're gonna have to take a look at. So we're trying to still not go crazy because of the ESSER funds, because we know that there's gonna come a reckoning. But again, I think the other thing that we've really done to help our district, when we had a really big deficit a couple of years ago, the other big thing that helped us was district realignment, where we had 2 schools that we closed, and the main thing was because we couldn't afford the operations costs for these schools, and we couldn't afford the salaries for all the people there. We just didn't have the students anymore, and that's how you get funded. Whenever you have less students, you have to decrease funding. And when you decrease funding, you have to decrease staff. All of those go together.
Any other questions for Dr. Pitts? If not, thank you. We'll move forward and we'll discuss this again on the 8th of August when we have our budget workshop. Finalize some of these numbers. All right, item number 8 is new business. 8A, by common consent, the board agrees to consider as one action item the following, which can be found on page 26 to 49. Approval of regular board meeting minutes of June 20, 2022. Approval of monthly investment report for May 2022. Approval of financial report for May 2022. And approval of waiver of tuition for transfer students for the 2022-2023 school year. Is there a motion to approve these as one action item? So moved. Motion made by Mr. Blusing. Second. Seconded by Mr. Chadwick. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. All right, item 8B, discussion, possible action regarding interlocal agreement between Kingsville Independent School District and Communities in School of the Coastal Bend. This can be found on page 50 to 54 of our packet. Dr. Pitts.
Just a moment. We have had a partnership with Communities in Schools. We're not sure exactly how many years. We know it's been at least 23. We have accurate records for that, but maybe Communities in Schools will be able to enlighten us. But we have invited them here today to talk a little bit about the services that they provide. And then we have the interlocal agreement that we are requesting approval from the board.
Good evening, Dr. Pettis and members of the board. My name is Krista Creek, and I am the Director of Programs for Communities and Schools of Coastal Bend. And I'm just going to do a quick little presentation about our program. So this right here is our model. So it just shows where we're the CIS affiliates and our site coordinators and our collaborative partners. Where we do a needs assessment with the campus. We plan, we give integrated student supports, and these are our 3 tiers of services. So tier 3 are individualized support. So these are when we work with the students one-on-one and individually provide the services. Tier 2 are targeted programs. They could be our lunch groups. They can be attendance groups. They're things that we do, maybe a parent meeting. And tier 1 are our school-wide activities. So our school-wide activities are things services that we provide to the whole school. Some examples of that would be attendance incentives, different programs that we do, presentations. We have a signs of suicide presentation that we do. So the tier 1 go to all of the schools. So for our case managed students, we actually have a caseload that we work with. And our site coordinators provide a minimum of 3 days of services to those students a month. And that could be individual one-on-one, or it could be in a group setting. But every report card, every time a report card comes out, our staff have to look at their grades, their attendance and behavior of the students on their caseload. And they adjust. So if they see now that maybe the first report card period, there was not an attendance issue, but now there is. So they'll adjust it and they'll pick it up. They'll see if their grades are improving. And if they are, great, what we're doing is working. And if they're not, then we see that we may need to make an adjustment there. And then at the end of the year, we have an evaluation. So one great thing is we do our best to provide intentional support. So we do a campus plan at the beginning of the school year that identifies gaps. So we work with the principals, and actually we speak to everybody on campus, principals, assistant principals, teachers, parents, students, counselors, attendance clerks, everybody. And we try to find out where they think, what are some needs on their campus. And then we work, the site coordinators then work and they plan intentional services that go along with the needs on the campuses. The principal must review it and sign off on it. And then we do upload it into our TEA system. What's great about our campus plan is it's a living, breathing document. It's something that if we planned a parent meeting in August and it's April, the principal's like, I really need you to, we really need to talk about this, or I really need this school-wide activity done, or we need to start these groups, we're seeing these issues on campus, we are able to adjust it and move it around. So next is our proven success. We are going to give you preliminary results from this current school year. The reason we say preliminary is because we do have students that went to summer school. And since we do work the month of June with the students in summer school, we continue, if our caseload, any students on our caseload are in summer school, we continue services with them. So we wait till summer school is over and so we will have, it will probably be September and we will have the full results. So this is for Kingsville ISD. So this is all of the schools. So we had 305 total case managed students. Of those 305, 132 were targeted for academics. That means we had 132 that had 70 or below in one of their core subjects. And as of right now, 124 of those did improve. So we have a percentage improvement rate of 93.94. So in behavior, we had 293 students that were targeted with behavior issues. And I want to cover this just a little bit. Behavior is not just behavior. So in our TEA system, they incorporate family crisis, self-esteem, social skills. All of that is encompassed in this in behavior. So it is not just behavior. Yes, behavior that is being sent to the office or or the student support system. So we had 293, and as of right now, 283 have improved, so that 96.59%. And of the 305, we had 169 that were targeted for attendance. And as of so far, 131 did improve in attendance, and for a 77.51%. So on attendance, if the student is on our caseload, we must pick them up if they have an 89% or below attendance rate. Our system calculates it for how many days are in that 6 weeks period. So we say we know there's 30 days in this period, they had so many absences, and our system calculates it. So if they have an 89% or below, we have to pick them up and work with them on their attendance. 234 were promoted, so that's really low right now, but only because of summer school. That will pick up. and stayed in school was 92. So we had 22 seniors that were eligible to graduate and 21 of them graduated. Anybody have any questions? So next, we're gonna show you really quickly, I'm not gonna go through them all and kind of let you look at them. This is specifically for Harvey. So this shows you the Harvey students. There were 75 on the caseload. And this is where their improvements and their measures are. The next one is Harold, and this is where they were at. They had 77 on their caseload at Harold. The next one is Gillette Middle School. And Gillette had 76 on their caseload, and this is where their outcomes were. And finally, H.M. King. So H.M. King, she had 77 on her caseload. And this is where her outcomes are at right now. The next is a 4-year comparison in academics, behavior, attendance, social service needs, promotion rate, stay in school, and graduation rate. Anybody have any questions or thoughts on this one? Next are our services. So non-case managed school-wide services. So this means, this is just a few examples of services that are provided to all the students and or families in Kingsville ISD. So we can do some academic intervention, basic needs, behavior monitoring, conflict resolution, parent education, home visits. These were just to name a few.
Is there any way that you can email this to the superintendent so she can email it to us so we can?
I actually have a paper copy if you'd like it.
Oh, that would be wonderful, thank you.
But we can't email it to her too. So in some of our family support for KISD, for the child's free, at the beginning of the school year, we took 20 students shopping to buy new clothes and shoes for school and holiday baskets. So 3 families at each of the schools at Christmas and Thanksgiving got a holiday basket. 3 families per school received a Christmas tree with decorations. So district-wide, we were able to buy 600 earbuds at Harold. We were able to help a family with $350 for a water heater and $250 for a motel stay. We were really excited, and towards in the spring semester, we were able to provide attendance incentives. So we worked with the students and, we worked with the administration on how they wanted to spend their attendance incentive budget. So these were some things each campus kind of did a little bit different. Some of them did it close to the same. So there were bikes and tablets. The middle school did AirPods and Apple Watch, a TV. So these were what we actually spent. H.M. King, there was a water heater, umbrellas, and earbuds. The CRS delivered a care package to Claiborne County for emergency fire and rescue for $204 and water, Gatorade, tea, and chips. So these are some of the celebrations and incentives. There was spring 22 at Gillette. There was an honor roll celebration at H.M. King. There was also a perfect attendance celebration, another perfect attendance celebration at Harvey's. And the Brahma Food Pantry. The Brahma Food Pantry serves all students and families in Kingsville ISD. There was 145 food boxes distributed to date. So one great thing we're really proud of is the Department of Education has communities and schools in as one of the sources of integrated student support services. So this is on page 35. So we are real excited that communities and schools nationwide has been added to this. We, through communities and schools, we have to be nationally accredited through our programs and our financials. So they, each year, so we were nationally accredited in 2011. We were re-accredited again in 2020, and we're expected to go through one in about another year. So these are some quick projections for next year. We will continue with family support, school support. We will do child free again. We do, once we finalize that date and location, we do love to have people come out and shop with the students. They enjoy, the kids enjoy it. They get a personal little shop to help get their new clothes and shoes for the school year. We will continue with holiday baskets, the tree for all. And these are some services that we will provide in September. All of our staff, this will be the 3rd year, we will be trained again in signs of suicide, and it is a student and parent presentation. This is just, it's an awareness presentation where we're talking to the students. They're usually going to see it first. They're going to see their friend is having, you know, some issues and things going on. We're teaching the students what to look for and helping them identify an adult, somebody that they trust, and helping talk to them about how to do that and what to do, and trying to make that normalize that it is that you can talk to an adult. So we will be doing some mental health awareness and support. In May, we do 1 in 5. We'll have bullying prevention, substance abuse prevention, self-love, respecting yourself, some self-esteem and stress awareness.
Now, the child's free that you're talking about, that's the shopping's free.
That's
And I know we've been asked, you know, some people around the community want to adopt, you know, some students, help with supplies and that. And they've agreed to kind of help us out, help us do something like that through communities and schools.
Yes, we're very excited for that. So we will, once we, we'll get that finalized, a date and location, and we'll relay that to Dr. Pettis, and that way we can figure out how to get it out and about and we can come and help shop with the students. So these are just some statements about communities and schools and students that testimonies for communities and schools and things that working with their site coordinators. That is it. Do you have any questions for me?
Just a comment. I've worked with y'all for a lot of those the years, 20-something years.
Yes, sir.
And I appreciate everything you did for our students and parents, staff, and everybody that was involved in it.
Thank you so much.
You know, one of the things that wasn't listed up there too, I know you play a crucial role in making sure that seniors have graduation gowns.
Caps and gowns,
And,
yes.
appreciate that also.
I think we were able to provide about, I think it was 27 caps and gowns this year for Team Select. Thank you, sir.
Add that to your list. That's a
Yes,
great
I need to
thing.
get that
That's a
on there,
great
don't
thing.
we?
I have a question, and I don't know if right now is the time to ask about the agreement. Can I ask? Okay, on the budget information, it says 129,000. And that's just to cover the 4 salaries, right?
Well, it's actually for the program. So what it is the cost per campus, and it doesn't necessarily cover their salaries. It's just for the program.
So where do the salaries come from?
It's partly with that, and then we have to leverage it with our TEA funds. Yes.
Because that was gonna be my next question, like everything that you provide, where you get that money? Like, that's a lot.
And I'll give you a plug here too. Every year you have a major fundraiser.
There you go.
Encourage everyone to
It's
participate.
a little low.
Yes, we do a fundraiser. It's Living Legends in February. So the last weekend of February, we have a great fundraiser here. And what's awesome about that one is all the funds at that event stay in Kingsville. So, we also have some grants, we have, some donations, a lot of it's donations also. We have a few foundations that we've been blessed with over the past couple of years that have been, helping us to provide that family support and then some extra funds, but, the fundraiser at Kingsville's had that extra support for years through that fundraiser, because there's a committee here in Kingsville that really spearheads it and helps us that be successful. We will, thank you.
I have a question with the agreement. You're separate from KISD employment. Are you also acting as parent liaisons to the school district?
No, our parent liaisons are paid with a different, I mean, they're separate from CIS, but they do.
I'm not talking about money, I'm talking about what they do for the district. So you guys
Yes,
are
We
taking
do
over-
part, yes,
Okay.
part of our services are parental involvement, yes. So we encompass a little bit of everything on campus. I think that's what's great.
Are you taking over the district and campus improvement plans as well?
No, districts do that. They might have us in certain areas for campus improvement plans. We do have to be in a campus improvement plan, like maybe they have us in parental involvement or different areas, but no, the school has.
So you don't look over the policies, make sure that the campus is following the improvement plans?
No, ma'am, that is not us, yes. ma'am.
And for Article 9, this might be an attorney question. This is amendment. Any changes to this amendment may be enacted by writing amendment or amendment. Addendum properly executed by the appropriate representatives of each party. Is that us? Do we approve that, or is that just an outside amendment?
So if any party wants to change any term of this agreement, both parties would have to agree, and yes, that is you, one, Kingsville ISD School Board would be one party to that.
Okay, and then on number 4 here, it says allow the CIS parent consent forms to be disseminated within the school district's beginning of the school year paperwork. Okay, we have online registration, so how is this information being disseminated?
So as of right now, until some districts have been able to incorporate our parent consent form into their online, if not, our staff are just having to go out and talk to parents, do home visits, send them home with the students. They just kind of been having to beat the streets to get that signed.
Is that included in ours, the consent form?
Yes, it should be, the beginning of the school packet, so even the first day of school, there's a lot of information that usually goes home, but we cut out a lot of it by going online registration, which I think we're one of the last districts to do that. So this past year, we started it, we still have things to refine in that.
All right, any other further questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. All right, we've heard the presentation and we see the recommended action by the administration recommending the Board of Trustees approve the interlocal agreement between the Kingsville Independent School District and Communities and School Coastal Bend. Is there a motion to approve the interlocal agreement?
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Ramos,
I'll second.
seconded by Ms. Salinas. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Any opposition? Motion carries 6-0. It is 7:05. I'm going to ask for a brief 5-minute recess. Just to take a break and then we will reconvene in just a few minutes.
Open.
All right, any questions? The recess is adjourned, and so we will reconvene the meeting. It is 7:10 p.m. We're now moving to item 8C, which is discussion and possible action regarding the student code of conduct for 2022, 2023. This can be found on page 55 to 97 of our packet. Dr. Sandoval.
Thank you, Board President, Mr. Kufal, Board Trustees, Dr. Pettis. I'm here today to present to you the student code of conduct for the 22-23 school year. This student code of conduct is presented to us by TAFE. It is a model handbook that we take and we make our own. TAFE did not make any recommendations to change the student code of conduct for the 22-23 school year. So the student code of conduct that you see before you is basically the same student code of conduct for the 21-22 school year. So no major changes have been made to this handbook. Take any questions at this time?
Any questions? If not, you've heard the presentation, the recommendation that we adopt. Is there a motion to approve?
I do have a question on this. It says here, use of telecommunication devices are in violation of district and campus rules. So does this mean they can't have them on campus?
What that means, Mr. Lucy, is that whatever the campus rule, and I know about 2 months ago, I think we had made that presentation about the telecommunication devices. So whatever the specific rule is for that campus, and Gillette and high school have various or different policies than the other campuses. So whatever that campus policy is, will supersede the policy.
Right, that's what I just want to get clarification. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, is there a motion to adopt?
I'll make the motion.
Motion made by Mr. Morales,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Chapa. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Any opposition? Motion carries 6-0. Item 8D, discussion and possible action regarding optional flexible school day program, the OFSDP, for the 2022-2023 school year. It's going to be found on page 98 to 110 of our packet. Dr. Sandoval.
Thank you, sir. The optional flexible school day program application is currently open for submission. We want to get our application in because it's 30 days from the time that we submit it to the time that we can actually start taking kids in our optional flexible school day program. The application you see before you, again, is similar to the application from last year. The only difference we're going to be making in our application this year is we're going to be moving the number of our kids that we serve from 25 per teacher to 50 per teacher. Because we do offer our optional flexible school day program morning and afternoon sessions. We do have 2 teachers, and we do have an opportunity to teach up to 25 students in those classes. Currently, we don't do 25 at any given time, but we want to have that flexibility in the event that we need to serve that many kids, that we're able to service them in the units. So I'll take any question you might have in regards to the application for the 22-23 school year.
We do have students take advantage of this, correct?
Correct, we do serve, currently, we do have students taking it at Kingsville, H.M. King High School, and we have some taking it at the Clayton Care. And we're considering and looking at the possibility of combining it and having it all under one roof there at Clayburgh, just so that we can better serve our students and have better support programs for them at that campus.
Any discussion, any questions? Not, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Ramos, seconded by
Second.
Mr. Morales. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposition? Motion carries 6-0. Item 8E, discussion and possible action regarding the second reading of board policy GE local relations with parent organizations. This can be found on page 111 to 119 of our packet. Dr. Pitts. Thank you, Mr. Buffon.
This is the second reading of board policy GE local. Again, this is a TASB recommendation that all of the red should be eliminated, and that we should have any of those items that we wish in our regulation. I want to bring your attention to regulation number 4 under specific guidelines. It says board officers must be community members that are not school employees. We do currently have one board member of one booster club that was elected before this guideline went in place. Yeah, yes. So with, can you hear me? Yes. Yes. Yes, yes. I can just raise my voice. I'm happy talking without a microphone. We currently have one Booster Club board member that is an employee. Our plans are to grandfather that one, let them serve their term, but not to have a conflict of interest with any of the finances since they are an employee. Again, that doesn't require board approval because that's part of the regulation, not part of the board policy. I'll take any questions that you have on the actual policy. What we're actually voting for the second reading today is not the regulation, but we're voting on the second reading of the proposed revisions of GE local.
I have a question. Since we don't have any voting power over the regulation, would anyone be opposed to putting, for number 4, board officers must be community members that are not school district employees or elected board of trustees? I mean, if we're calling out the employees, I think it would be ethical of us just to stay away from a poster like that. They're city board members, especially after what had just happened this year.
From the finance side, we don't see any problems with that. That definitely sounds good to have a separation. So administration doesn't have a problem with that.
Board members have an issue with that. If we were to get administration.
So you're recommending that we put that in the red.
Yeah, if we exclude employees, we should exclude ourselves as well.
You mean as officers or?
Correct.
And we would put in their current board members, right?
All right. What's before us is the second reading of the policy, basically doing away with the policy, shifting the responsibility away from the board. Is there a motion to approve the second reading of GE local?
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Bluesing. Seconded by Mr. Morales. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition?
Well, I like it. But never mind. No.
Okay, so we got 5 in in favor, one opposed.
Yeah, I did want to say something, but you went ahead and started to vote, so my bad.
All right, motion carries 5-1. Item
Is
8,
this gonna go online? Are the regulations gonna go online?
Yes, we can post the regulations, along with the board policy is, I believe, an exhibit, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Dr. Pitts, we're voting with the change that, right?
No,
Is that right?
no, that's not, it's just, we're just voting on GE local. And then
What
we
she's
have
recommending
the,
is for the regulation.
and then we have the authority to make that change ourselves on the.
Yeah, I'd be happy to vote yes, but I personally don't want it on the agenda online for everyone to see.
don't want what?
I like the local policy. I would vote yes on it. But I don't want this attached to it online, the
Regulations,
regulation.
regulations are normally attached, the attachment. So yeah, when districts do have regulations that are attached along with board policy, because it is a policy statement, but it's just what the administration is doing within the board adopted.
What's the clear definition between, or what is the difference between a regulation and a procedure? Is there any difference in legality on that?
I mean, we're getting into semantics. When it comes to regulations, those are just, in KISD's lingo, it is something that we've also we post along with our board policy.
But not procedures.
I mean, your procedures should be in your employee handbook or whatnot, or whatever, another policy statement. But if it's higher than a procedure, right, and we want it to be publicized to the community, the administration has the option to adopt regulations.
They don't have to be posted.
Regulations, yes, they do have to be posted.
There's not procedures.
Most of the time, your procedures would be in some type of handbook that is posted on your website.
All right. We move now to item 8F, discussion and possible action regarding the 2022-2023 agricultural stipend. It's going to be found on page 120 of our packet. Dr. Pitts.
Thank you, Mr. Ruble. The board has already approved the stipend schedule for 2022-2023. We are requesting a revision for the agricultural stipend. We did look at surrounding districts. We consulted with TASB. They are already at 227 days, which is competitive with other districts, but to remain competitive, we are presenting to the board to the current stipend is $1,200. We are proposing a revision to $5,000 for 2022-2023. I'll take any questions.
I got huge questions here. This program kind of stands on its own. You can't easily compare it to athletics. You can't easily compare it to clubs and organizations. And I say that in this regard. Athletics, these are public county shows that these ag teachers were traveling to. But they're not really traveling as a school club. There are students going individually, and parents generally, I have a hard time understanding the school's role in any show outside of Clayburgh County. I just have a hard time understanding what the role is of that, and who determines who goes, who doesn't go, how long. I'm confused by the program.
I know we have Mr. Haddock here. Would you be willing to maybe shed some light on this? If you'd like to come to the microphone.
And I think Dr. Sandoval might have some light as well.
Hello, Dr. Pettis, members of the board. So just to kind of touch base there, when we go to these shows, they're part of the classroom model as well.
So it's a three-part system, it's comprised of the classroom, it's comprised of the FFA organization, and it's also comprised of their record books. So it goes all together. So we're actually a lot different compared to, coaches, everything else. We're not extracurricular, we're intracurricular. And like you said, okay, yes, the parents do build, that's the parents' responsibility. However, when these students do go to compete wherever they go across the state or even locally, they are representing HM King High School, Kingsville ISD. So of course, you won't send the football team without their coaches, correct? So why would you send the agriculture students without their sponsor? Secondly, there are also legal deals in there that you cannot send students to go compete without their advisor as well. So leaving them there is negligence on our part as agriculture science teachers and county 4-H extension agents. And also, another part to kind of catch up there is for the student to be counted present and excused from school, the ag teacher or again, the 4-H advisor has to be present at those events.
Who decides what shows?
The students have the liberty to decide what they want to go to. Again, we can't limit any student to say they only want to play football. If they want to play football, they want to be in band, whatever they want to do. It's really up to the student. And that's what we
It'd be like saying, I want to play football, but I insist on going to the state conference title game and you're going to take me, coach. I mean, it's kind of, I just think there needs to be some kind of limit on this. This is a hybrid parent / student role that involves FFA students, which, and I'm not poo-pooing the program, I'm a huge supporter. I just think this could easily get out of control, out of hand. And is it open to every single student that?
Okay, so just to touch up on that, that's one thing I do want to stop right there because the old school mentality of thinking is just FFA is only animals. That's actually 100% incorrect. There's animals, there's speaking contests, there's, any kind of competitive event that these students can do. So when we think about it in the old mentality is, okay, yes, they're showing. However, we do take that into consideration. Are we available to go with them to the show? Is it feasible for us to go? That's another thing we take into consideration for student travel, as well as, is it okay for one ag teacher to be gone for a student who's going to be gone for a week, so to say? At the end of the day, we still have students at our campus that we still have to teach. So before we even make these decisions, this is something we've already completely thought through and, cleared with our principals before we even submit the paperwork as well.
Okay, and I'm not opposed at all to the green hand competitions, the speaking and all of that that's involved with it, the conferences, all of that. But when you've got, some of these larger shows that go on for a week and a half at a time, Dallas, Houston, Valley, at some point, yeah.
Yes, sir. So again, on those shows, even though a lot of them go on for a month at a time, our students are generally only there for about 3 days. And again, when we talk about these major level shows, this is their state. That's, state football champion, state baseball champion. That's another thing that isn't really perceived this way, because when you compete in FFA or 4-H, you're competing against every school from 1A to 6A across the state. We don't get the luxury of, hey, we're only competing against 4-H or 4A school districts in our area. No, we're competing against everybody. Some people shell out $100,000 for an animal versus some kids who only, they pay $100, $300. So that's another thing we take into consideration when we advise and guide our students in the decisions that they want to do.
And I do want to add to that, Mr. Kufal, that our ag teachers do not tell our kids where they cannot go. If the kids make the choice to go to Mercedes, or they want to go to Austin, or they go to San Antonio or Houston, our sponsors are there. They're there to support the kids, guide the kids, provide them the support they need while they're showing and representing KISD. And in addition to that, with all the student competitions that are part of the program, ag is different than any other CTE program we have in the district. It's a year-round program. It's not something that only happens in the spring or happens in the fall. They're constantly working with these kids, and I'll be one of the biggest advocates for this these individuals that work with the FFA because they're constantly working with their kids. Their contract, you know, is even a 227 because they're working this summer to work with our kids. So it is a justifiable expense in terms of the requests that we're asking. I think they earn every penny of that, you know, $1,200 stipend they get now. They still wouldn't be enough time to earn the $5,000 we're requesting, because they do put a lot of times on the weekends. I can tell you right now, you know, being a father and a husband, I wouldn't want to be gone as much as these individuals offer FFA programs. So, you know, the amount that we are requesting for their services to the district and the kids, I think it's well worth the time that they spend with our children.
I have absolutely no problem with the stipend and the amount of stipend that's being asked for. I just question the number of shows that are involved and we're taking faculty out of.
And I think we're doing a better job of working more closely with our ag teachers to see what is it that our children are going to, because also we do kind of worry if they're missing too many days, you know, maybe 30 days or something from school, and how is it affecting the rest of their classes. That has been a concern. So just talking with you all more regularly, I think having a calendar like you talked about, I mean, I can tell you're very passionate, Mr. Hackey, and we appreciate everything that you do, we really do. And we're very, very proud of the kids. We're continuing to, I know on our social media, we're constantly sharing the great pictures and the awards that they're winning. We just want to make sure that we're being very cognizant about how many times they're out, how many times the teachers are out, because then they're missing out on the rest of the children that they teach also. So it's just concerns like that we would have with any organization or any team.
Any other questions? If not, you've heard the recommendation for the increase in the stipend for the 2022-2023 agricultural stipend to increase to $5,000 as presented. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Glusick,
Second.
seconded by Ms. Ramos. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 8G, discussion and possible action regarding the maintenance building and roof replacement contract award, RFP number 21/22-006, which can be found on page 121 and 122 of our packet. Dr. Pitts.
Thank you, Mr. Kruger. We have been strategically repairing roof leaks in the district. We started with the campuses, and then the next big one that we went after was the maintenance shop, which has been leaking for over a decade. It was something that we brought to the board to go out for proposals for an RFP. We received 4 proposals. You see the 4 vendors there. Can we make it a little bit bigger? The 4 vendors that we received proposals from were American Contracting USA, RGO Roofing and Construction, Rykar's Construction, and Rain Seal Master Roofing and Sheet Metal. They were evaluated based on the rubric that was in the RFP. And the percentages were the percentages that were publicly posted in the RFP as well too. We did have a public meeting where they could come and actually view the roof and ask questions as well too, and get on the roof as well. You see the 4 bids that are there. The one that received the highest scoring based on the rubric was RGO Roofing and Construction. They received 96% of the total 100 points allowed in the rubric. The next step would be that the board, we are requesting the board approve awarding the contract to RGO, and then we would work with RGO to get the document signed between administration and RGO. You see the price there, that price is based on the scope of work in the RFP. So if there is anything extra that we did not include in the RFP that we put out, they have they were required to put a price per square foot of any extra material that would be needed for anything that was not in the RFP. So we have that locked in as well too, if there's any extra material or something that is needed that wasn't in the original specifications. I'll take any questions you have at this time.
Number one, who fills out the rubric? A committee or an
that-
individual?
That was a committee.
Okay, that's on, I don't even know who's on it. It speaks of a 30-year, no dollar, limited warranty. Is that against the manufacturer or the company, or both?
That's a question that, let me defer to our consultant, just a minute. Okay, I have you on speaker. Mike, could you, they're asking about the NDL warranty. Did you get that?
Yes, that's the manufacturer's warranty. The contractor will provide a 2-year warranty.
Manufacturer 30-year, the.
2 year for the contractor.
All right, that's all the questions I have.
Any other questions?
I have one question for you. Across the board here, I'm looking at the methodology of best practices. Pretty much your top contenders are listed as a 3 as an average. Why is that? Why do they score so well? It's just a 3.
We had, in the actual RFP, we had listed probably 15 different components for that one thing in methodology. So it was so specific that not all of those components were fully answered to our satisfaction in what they submitted to the RFP. All of these contractors, we've done work with several of them before. It's just that their submissions, even though we're pretty comfortable with their procedures, we had to go exactly by what they submitted in the RFP, and they did not submit everything really that we wanted for all 15 of those points.
Is RGO Roofing something that you worked with in the past?
Yes, they are, and we're satisfied with their work.
Thank you very much.
Is it someone that Garland has worked with in the past?
Yes, all of the, well, actually, I think Mike, Garland has worked with all of these except for maybe Rycars you haven't worked with, or? Are you there, Mike?
Okay.
But
he was involved in this process and kind of looking over these also, correct? Because-
right, we relied on, even though we did the ratings, we relied on his expertise for any questions because he's our consultant. So, but he, again, he didn't have a scoring vote in any of these, but we asked all our questions since he's the guy with all the knowledge.
Perfect. And I'm not questioning your ability to know roofing, I'm not.
I am questioning my ability to know roofing.
I've got nothing further. Anybody else? Any questions?
I'm just a little concerned that there's about a $500,000 difference on price in some areas. I wonder if they're lowballing and then we'll have to come in and get, more money for it. If you look, it's mainly based on the price.
We're pretty comfortable about that. They worked with us before, and so we opened it up where anybody could come actually view the site, and RG was the only one that came and viewed the site, and they walked the roof, so they should probably know more than anybody else how much it's gonna cost. If the others had come out and seen it, like we showed them where the staging area would be, we have a big staging area, and I think that really he probably has a better idea of the project because he was the only one that showed up for the pre-proposal conference.
Any further questions? If not, you've heard the presentation and the recommendation that the contract be awarded, maintenance building roof replacement contract be awarded to RGO. Lost their name, RGO Roofing and Construction, as recommended. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Ramos,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Morales. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Any opposition? Motion carries 6-0. Item 8H, discussion and possible action regarding notice of public meeting date and time for the 2022-2023 proposed budget, and proposed tax rate. This can be found on page 123 of our packet. Dr. Pitts.
Thank you, Mr. Gufel. As we discussed earlier in the budget update, we are required to approve at a board meeting the date and time of the public meeting. Even though it will be approved tonight, we will not be posting it until the 8th. We'll submit it on the 8th. It won't be posted until the 11th. The reason why is because it does need to have the final budget in there and the final tax rate in the actual meeting notice. Right now, though, we are required to approve the date, and we are proposing August 23rd. That is a Tuesday at 5:00 p.m. I'll take any questions.
You've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Ramos,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Morales. All those in favor say aye. Any opposition? Motion carries 6-0. 8I, discussion and possible action regarding resolution to designate officer responsible for tax rate calculation. This is on page 124 and 125 of our packet. Dr. Pitts.
Thank you, Mr. Gufel. Every year, there is a school official that's responsible for tax rate calculations. I have always done it in conjunction with the tax assessor collector. Now, TEA is recommending that all school districts actually take a resolution to the board to designate an employee that is responsible for this task. You see the resolution in front of you. If the board approves it, I will read the resolution.
All right, you've seen the resolution and the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Ramos, seconded by Ms. Salinas. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries.
Thank you. Let me read the resolution. Resolution of the Board of Trustees regarding designation of officer responsible for tax rate calculations. Whereas each year, the Chief Financial Officer works in conjunction with the Clayburgh County Tax Assessor Collector to calculate the tax rates for the upcoming year. Whereas according to Texas Tax Code 26.04, an officer or employee designated by the governing body shall calculate the no new revenue tax rate and the voter approval tax rate for the taxing unit. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of Kingsville Independent School District designates the Kingsville ISD Chief Financial Officer as the employer responsible for calculating the no new revenue tax rate and the voter approval tax rate for Kingsville ISD, adopted this 19th day of July 2022 by the Board of Trustees.
Thank you, Dr. Pitts. All right, we move now to item 8J. Discussion and possible action regarding revised resolution of the board regarding no parking zones at Pettis and Harvey Elementary School. This is on page 126 to 129 of our packet. Dr. Pitts.
Thank you, Mr. Gufel. We have brought this to the board before, so a few revisions based on the city engineer and some comments from the school board members. So if you look at the first map, can we bring the map up for Pettis Elementary? So you see the recommendation now is no parking zones along ALC all the way from Jerome all the way to Brahma Boulevard, but only on the north side would there be no parking zones. So what this would do is it would stop parents from dropping them off not only on adjacent to homesteads, but also it would prevent the students from walking across the street from the north side of the street to the south side of the street where Pettis is. I'll take any question, and again, the city said that they would pay for the signs as well too. So this will go to their next meeting. Any questions on this map before we take a look at Harvey?
Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead.
I live off Shelley and Ainsley, so, Elsie. So we're just talking about pick up and drop off or?
Yes, I'm sorry, during school hours. Yes, during school hours. There would be a no parking zone on the north side of that street.
But the south side, people can still park.
That is correct.
Okay, so I pick up my son and I go through, I leave around the time there's pickup and drop off. We're gonna need a lot of help from the city to enforce this, because I see parents being very resistant in the beginning.
On the parking on the north side?
Yes.
Okay, well, I mean, I guess we will need to request their help because ultimately it's for the safety of the students, because it's not safe to walk across there with all the traffic.
Yeah, totally agree, but it's just gonna,
We're
to be difficult.
So we're in the business of education. We can educate them not to park on the other side of the road.
Well, one of the toughest pushbacks I think you're gonna have is the homesteaders.
Yes, that's my question.
How do the homes across the street feel about that? Do they get an exemption, like a parking ticket saying I'm exempt from this? Anyway, any matter?
Well, they don't park on the street.
During that
I
time.
know they don't, but I mean, just in case.
But guests would be parked there.
Well, and they would, just get them out before 6:45.
I know that the city engineer, they always do a study where they pull the people that it will affect, so.
That's what I was want to make sure is that they've been contacted and had some sort of input into it. Because I know that when I lived on Avenue A, across the street from the new parking lot that went to the university, we were not contacted. They just said, you can't park here. So that meant whenever we had company come over, they had to go away. And so that's what when we had somebody come in and talk to us about no parking, I thought it was on the south side of the street. I didn't realize it was on the north side of the street. But I think that may be an issue that takes a whole lot longer to educate than what we're expecting.
We revised the pickup and drop off, and that took education and will require more education with the beginning of the school year. You're right, this is gonna take education too, but I think it's worth it if we can make it a little bit safer for our students.
Who notified the homeowners? Was it KISD or was it the city?
No, it's-
And really, there's only 7 properties involved there. At the front of the house.
And I'm sure, I don't know, if I were a homeowner there, I'd probably enjoy that. The fact that no one can park in my, I've been there and I've seen the poor postman trying to traverse that area during school let out, and that's just dangerous. So they'll enjoy being able to drop off mail without navigating the vehicles too. Buses can pull in and out of there a lot easier.
Yes, that's one of the major things where the buses do wide turns, and this will make it safer for the buses pulling out of there as well too.
Dr. Spitz, I just want to make a point clear that I'm not opposed to this. I think it's a great idea to be safe. I just think it's going to be hard to enforce it, and we're going to need help from the police department. That was my point. Thank you.
Yeah, and Ms. Toda's job of the traffic patterns, the way they changed last year, we did it during spring break, I believe, we came back, did a lot of announcing it and the robocalls and everything, so that went pretty smoothly, so we're hopeful that maybe with, given enough time, we're gonna start having to announce this and educate everybody about it.
Yes, and the parents were very receptive. We wanted to, but other than that, the parents understand, that all of this stuff for the safety of the children. I think they'll easily educate.
Yes.
I think you might have more issues with the no parking area there at Harvey than anything.
So let's pull up that map. So Harvey, there's gonna be no parking on the south side, also adjacent to the property is the same philosophy that we don't want students crossing the street there. Also during school hours. Again, the city would provide the signs. Any questions on this? Again, this is no parking on the south side during school hours.
Is Kennedy already no parking?
I do not believe so.
The Boys and Girls Club park all up and down that road when they had it, so it's a free for all. And then sometimes they'll use the, well, I think it's right there, KISD parking, property there to park on it. That's where they do baseball and all that stuff during the year.
Is the entrance to Harvey predominantly from the back?
No, but we haven't really had very many issues with pickup and drop off at Harvey, other than the parking along that side of the street on Lot Avenue.
I know it made it very crowded, right, for the bus to go through.
Right,
Buses to
right.
go through there to that, I think that was a big problem last year, or that was brought.
And just students crossing the street there as well too.
But what about Kennedy? Did that accident occur on that street?
So we talked with the city engineer about Kennedy, and I can understand it from a safety perspective, but right now we don't have the support to make that a no parking zone on the north side. That's something that we can try to take back. But they recommended that we do not have a no parking zone on Kennedy.
That's just nonsensical.
Well, this is what we have support for now. We can always go back and ask them for another revision, but I guess I would recommend that we at least get this approved so that we can have them at their next meeting, have no parking zones here, but I guess the thought is that on the north side of Kennedy, that you would wish for the same thing, right?
I would think that's where the majority of the traffic would be, because that's the pickup of and drop off. And I didn't realize there was an issue on Lot.
Yeah.
Because they don't pay.
That's where we've had the most issues, it seems. But we can also go back and request for them to,
It's actually not that bad on Kennedy because of.
because of Long, because everybody's in the back. Is it a wider street on Kennedy?
Yes,
Okay, so there's plenty of room because.
and there's a longer line to wait on Kennedy as you're
Because of the
turning.
open.
Yeah, because all that room, all that extra open campus, there's just a huge field there, so that line stretches way down to pick up it, so it's not too bad across the street.
Now, that subdivision is older, on smaller lots, has less driveways. And that's where I think you're gonna get the real public pushback.
Yep. I have to agree with that one. And you can't talk speed bumps, because I don't think the city manager is really big on speed bumps in the city of Kingsville, mainly from a emergency and border patrol point of view of getting to and from. I don't know, like an idea of having 2 speed bumps right there, right in front of Harvey, if that would even do anything. Because it's mainly kid safety of getting in and out of the vehicle, not necessarily speeding down the road, right? Did they look at doing it like a one-way just during school times?
Well, that's not something that has been looked at. Make the whole street one way.
Just during school hours?
Maybe.
That at least kind of streamline the traffic flow without burdening the residents. I don't know, just something. to think
I'm not
about.
sure what, I can ask and see what type of support we have for that. I haven't known them to make any streets one way during school hours. Now, what we can control on our own property, we have made different areas one way and only one left turn or only right turn, but I can ask them about it.
This street.
Which one?
School, the Second Street,
Oh,
when I was a kid.
In other districts, they do the same thing.
But we're approving some resolutions, basically saying, city, this is what we'd love to have happen. City's likely to come back with a counter or say no. But I think after our study, this is, this is the best that we can ask for at this time.
I think it's a start.
Again, I just hope those landlords have been notified. That might be, but actually have it one way all the time, because I think if you do it during certain hours,
It gets confusing.
and you do have an opportunity, once you go down a lot, to turn on, 16th and then 15th Street and then also 14th Street. So there are opportunities to go around and then go back north or even come back.
Well,
Every major city in the United States has one-way streets going here and there, but we get so spoiled in small town USA.
But once again, it's not our decision.
No, it's just our recommendation to the city through this resolution.
It's for the safety of the kids, so.
All right, any further discussion, questions? If not, you've heard the recommendation that we adopt the resolution. Mr. Fitch, you want to go ahead and read the resolution?
Yes, sir. Resolution of the Board of Trustees regarding no parking zones in relation to student safety. Whereas the safety of Kingsville Independent School District students and staff is a paramount priority. Whereas the Board of Trustees recognizes and acknowledges that parking in front of Pettis Elementary School and behind Harvey Elementary School during pickup and drop-off times creates a hazardous environment for pedestrians and traffic. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of Kingsville Independent School District authorizes this resolution, formally requesting the city of Kingsville to designate no parking zones in front of Pettis Elementary and behind Harvey Elementary on school days between 6:45 to 8:15 a.m. and 2:30 to 4:00 p.m. The proposed Pettis Elementary no parking zone is located on the north side of Elsie Avenue from Rama Boulevard to Jerome Drive. The proposed Harvey no parking zone is located on the south side of Lot Avenue from 18th Street to 19th Street, adopted this 19th day of July 2022 by the Board of Trustees.
All right, you've heard the resolution. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Ramos. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Morales. Any further discussion?
I just want to say that I'm actually very excited about this, and I know that Cabal knows this, because this is something I've been ragged on you about so many years ago. And it's just not me, it's a lot of other parents that are out there that are concerned as well. And I'm super excited that we took the time to do this.
I agree.
Thank you.
I'm glad that the administration took it seriously. Is there, there's been a motion made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries 6-0. Item 8K, discussion and possible action regarding purchases over $25,000. This can be found on page 130, 131 of our packet. Dr. Pitts.
Thank you, Mr. Bufalo. We have one purchase over 25,000 requesting board approval. We currently partner with Education to Employment Partners. We've been using their services. I believe it's was from May through July. Or was it from March? March to July. We are requesting to extend their services through August. However, that would put them over 25,000 for the year, because through July, they are at 23,000 and change. So this would require board approval to continue through August. Currently, we have, they are providing one full-time staff member on the campus, and they are providing CCMR services to our students. We'll take any questions.
So really, it's just $4,000.
Yes, $4,000 more because we've already spent 23,500, correct?
And what are these services that are being provided?
Dr. Sandoval?
The Education to Employment program is providing additional support to our students to help them get registered for college, helping them complete their FAFSAs, helping them tracking their actual going to school and participating in the fall semester. So
Does it help also with the registration for that testing of welders
Yes.
or the, okay, oh, gotcha, I understand. Any further questions? We've heard the recommendation that we approve the purchase. Is there a motion to do so?
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Ramos. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Morellis. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Any opposition? Motion carries 6-0. Item number 9, the board's now going to enter into closed session in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code 551.071 and 551.074 to deliberate and consider the following. 9A, consider and deliberate regarding employment of contracted personnel, Executive Director for Technology and Communications. And B, consider and deliberate with legal counsel regarding legal and personnel matters. No action will be taken until we return to open session. We are entering closed session at 8:01 p.m. We now return to open session. And we take necessary action upon matters which the board may discuss in open session, upon which action may be taken. We're returning to open session at 8:44 p.m. Item 10A, discussion and possible action regarding the employment of contract personnel, the Executive Director for Technology and Communications. Dr. Pettis.
Administration recommends that the Board of Trustees approve the following contracted employee presented: Executive Director for Technology, Teams, Attendance, and Communications.
All right, we've heard the recommendation from administration. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion made by Mr. Chopin, seconded by Mr. Salinas. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries 6-0. There being no further action, I'm declaring this meeting adjourned at 8:45 p.m.
That's when they changed the principles all high school.